And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this very special segment on the 25th day of May 2022. And of course, today it's 18 degrees and sunny. Good to see the Queensland sun out once again. Yes, we had too much moisture in the air, and of course everyone's been complaining about mildew and other things like that. Well, right now, with the sun shining once again, hopefully we'll get all this under control. Hi, today we've got lots to go through. First of all, we have this news update segment. Then we have our daily India report. Then we'll be joining in the live sitting of the Queensland Parliament House. And at 10 a.m., we'll have the weekly real estate update with Usha Chandra. So let's get into the show without any delay. Flus is causing a major havoc this season. Of course, Queensland has made it free for everyone to go and get your flu shots. What about New South Wales?
And every year,
a sense of deja vu, but it's a different battle now as influenza cases surge.
New South Wales hospitals are certainly experiencing a fair degree of pressure at the moment.
Our members are saying that the workload at the moment is the worst they've ever seen it, even considering the COVID peaks.
9,500 people presented to New South Wales hospitals yesterday, and around 2,500 staff each day are off work due to illness.
I think it's a record now that the amount of cases that New South Wales Ambulance has been going to is genuinely in the unprecedented category.
The ambulance service dealt with more than 100,000 cases last month.
My message is the flu season's kicked off early. We've had almost no flu for the last 2 years, so I urge everyone to get vaccinated now.
The vaccine is free for some in the community, but Queensland is making it free to all, and New South Wales has noticed.
Hopefully we'll be able to follow a similar path, but it's a little too early yet. We've just got to make sure the system works.
Staff who've quit due to heavy workloads have a message for those trying to ease the strain on the hospital system.
Better working conditions for them, and you pay them what they're worth, then they'll come back to work.
But the Chief Health Officer has a sobering message too, with thousands of children admitted to hospital.
We occasionally have healthy young children die of flu, and that's why we've been so passionate at increasing vaccination.
A call to arms once again. Rani Hay.
A call to arms once again is this is now the time when people really need to get those flu shots. As the medical officer there said, that in the last 2 years we didn't have these outbreak of the flu. I mean, they were always out there in the community, but it was not in the large numbers as we see today. And of course, this is alarming. So, if you have not had your flu shot this year yet, please go ahead and do that. Well, right now, that nightlife and everything is now back to normal. So what's happening in Melbourne is as the nightlife recovers from COVID, a liquor license freeze is under the microscope to see what's going to happen. Can that be controlled?
Derelict for about a decade, this shabby Bourke Street building is to be transformed into a new high-end hospitality location with multiple restaurants, bars and cultural events.
This isn't a King Street venue. This is going to be a very sophisticated European venue.
But last drinks will be called at the relatively sober hour of 1 a.m. after an application to trade until 3 a.m. was rejected. The government put a freeze on late-night licences more than a decade ago to reduce violence in the inner city.
Other cities have put blanket bans on licences where you cannot get a new liquor licence at all, so it's not as harsh as that.
The 1 a.m. moratorium across the whole state, it should be on a case-by-case basis.
Michael O'Brien operates some of the country's most iconic venues like Icebergs at Bondi. He says Melbourne's rules need a rethink to bring life back to the city post-pandemic.
When international people come here, and more will come, they will expect a good late night offering.
I don't think having an alcohol-fuelled recovery after COVID is really the way to go.
5 years ago, John Walker's son Jaden was killed by a late-night one-punch attack in the city.
People say that things heal with time, and it just doesn't. It just doesn't at all.
He now campaigns against violence, but he's worried limiting licensing hours could have unintended consequences.
You'll probably just cram down as many drinks as you possibly can in a shorter period of time, which is actually more harmful than actually drinking over a longer period of time.
There have been exemptions to those limited hours in recent years, but only for some smaller venues and places with live music. The state government says it wants a strong nighttime economy here in the city, but not at the risk of alcohol-related harm. It says the freeze on most new licences will continue until at least the middle of next year. Annie Kearney, ABC News.
And of course, how do you control, as they said, that if you have limit the hours, you'll have more people cramming in and probably drinking quicker, rather than spreading it over those hours. So there's always unintended consequences, as that was mentioned. Well, okay, right, to our next report, trucks. They say without trucks, Australia comes to stop. But what about when, you see them in the streets and everywhere? Well, talking about the streets, I know here in Brisbane, there are people who complain about the flight path and the route, and that is not as bad as if you living in a residential area and you got these garbage trucks coming in at 4:30 or 5 in the morning, making all sorts of noises. What about all that? So, you really need to look at the balance of the equation. But in Sydney and in the suburbs, people are complaining that, people are trying to dodge these big trucks coming into the streets.
An opportunity to raise their voice over a surge of trucks screeching through the suburbs. The Road Toll Inquiry examining the regime sat in Sydney's south, hearing the impact of drivers dodging the M5 East and M8.
There's no people, there's no shoppers, the shops are all poor and they're all going broke.
Trucks have to pay more than $20 each way to use the M5 East. Is it any wonder they're using surface roads and destroying local businesses?
Labor is on the offensive, but is still writing its own tolling policy. Treasury and the Transport Department are also examining Sydney's tolls, with affordability to be a focus. Motorists are hoping some relief is on the way, especially with petrol prices constantly going up. Sydney's weekly average price climbed to $2.03, but it's not uncommon to pay much more.
It's absolutely horrible.
Well, if they get any more expensive, I think a lot of us are going to start taking cars and look at public transport, aren't we?
I put in $130 the other day, so it only lasts me 3 or 4 days.
Cost of living pressures likely to last until at least next year's state election. Tim Swanston, ABC News, Sydney.
Well, when you look at the rising prices, everything will start going up. Mark my words today, the 25th of May, and that moving forward, things will start creeping back. See, the petrol's already going back up now, and of course, the small to medium businesses who would have to be paying a little bit more for all the costs as well. There are many other associated costs and many other things that will be on the increase. The unemployment rate, where it's sitting at the moment, mark my words, that will also be blown out of proportion. So those are signs of times to come. Well, Sydney crime network has been dismantled after raids across the city.
It was a bold awakening for the underworld, a bold response from them, and a big claim by police.
I'm confident that we've cut the head off the snake.
Today, we've actually closed the net on one of Sydney's most dangerous crime families.
Police say this undercover sting in Sydney's southwest was 12 months in the making.
Police search warrant!
Pre-dawn raids on several homes ended with 18 men in handcuffs, including 23-year-old Trent Jeske.
And these are members of the Alameddine family. They are scumbags and they are a scourge on society.
36 mobile phones were seized, one with 700 contacts. Police say those arrested used the phones to supply illegal drugs on behalf of the Comancheros, earning $250,000 a week.
The recent gang-related violence has been plaguing Sydney stems directly from the battle for control of these drug markets and their profits.
Investigators believe the phones in a fight for the slice of the black market could be linked to the recent spate of gang murders.
I'm not willing to say in regards to which one. This has been a form of suburban terrorism, and today we've smashed it.
While the police commissioner is claiming a major victory, the test will be whether or not the gang violence continues. What she will need going forward is a strong force, but the new union boss is warning of a critical shortage of new recruits, resulting in the cancellation of next month's intake of officers. It costs around $17,000 to graduate as a police cadet.
You shouldn't have to choose between paying a mortgage or looking after a young family or joining our job.
If we can look at the ways in which we can bring those costs down and get more talent and more people into the police force, then we need to look at that.
With several gangland murders unsolved, police say expect to see more of this. Mark Reddy, ABC News, Sydney.
Well, there's all these gang leaders and the gang-related things happening out in the suburbs and in the streets, and good on the police department for cracking that. And as was said in the report, that it has been an operation which has taken more than 12 months in the making. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now let's go to the Taliban and what decree they have put forward.
Well, in a show of solidarity, some male television newsreaders in Afghanistan are wearing face masks in protest at a new Taliban decree ordering female television presenters to cover their face. Since returning to power 9 months ago, the Taliban has ordered all women to cover their faces in public and even barred girls from attending school after the 6th grade. Najiba Wazafadost fled Taliban in the early 2000s and is now the founder of the Asia-Pacific Network of Refugees. She says women are becoming prisoners of their own gender.
It has been very devastating to see that, the gender segregation back from the 1990s is repeating its history in Afghanistan. As you just mentioned, Afghan women are being ordered to cover their faces in the public, not only in the TV. And we've seen all the TV presenters now wearing burqa in order to be able to do what they're doing in the media. This really adds to the growing list of restrictions on women's rights since the Taliban has returned to power last year in August.
Yeah. Give us an idea of how incrementally things have changed and how women are being shut out of society.
Well, to be honest, everyone was saying that the Taliban has come back to the country and they are promising, that gender rights, women's rights will be maintained throughout the country. But slowly we saw, that wasn't the case, and it was just a show for the international community. We did tend to see that girls are being asked to remove from school. Female teachers are actually receiving death threats that if they do want to continue education for girls. We've been seeing a lot of women being asked to leave their employment opportunities in whatever sector there is. Literally, women are becoming prisoners of their own gender. And now, in addition to that, what we are seeing is that, those female presenters, journalists in the media have been asked to, cover their faces in order to be able to work.
Yeah. I noticed that some of their male colleagues have come out in support covering their faces as well. What might happen to those protesting this change?
It's not going to do anything. In fact, it's going to bring, again, those that are protesting in higher risk. In Afghanistan, there is no democracy, there is no rights, there is no choice. Everything is actually being made out of force. So whoever is actually supporting those women is also putting their own lives at risk. It's a very heroic move, It's the first time that we are actually seeing Afghan men standing up in such, courageous way to support the rights of women, especially in Afghanistan. But my worry and fear is that the target killing and the persecution and the death will also go towards those that are protesting. As we just saw, with many other women protesting in the past few months, and the same thing has happened to them.
So what has happened to that sort of the women coming out on the streets, people promising to try and resist these changes? Has that all but died away?
We are working with many women in Afghanistan right now. On the ground, we are quite active. We actually deliver an emergency relief program. And with every female that we are speaking right now, and in the past few days, we've been in contact with many of them, each and every one is actually, voicing fear. A lot of them are no longer talking about mere survival. It's all about, how to escape and how to, get to a security and establish safety again. There is a clear pattern, of Taliban atrocities now being committed across Afghanistan, which could mean that, all the Afghans may be facing, immediate persecution and death and killings.
Has there been an effort to go underground to keep educating young girls to try and hide it from view?
We've done, at least the local actors in Afghanistan, they've been trying their best to provide informal education in homes. There's been a lot of outreach advocacy around, at least primary education for girls. And some of those activities, even in the villages, have been stopped. We've had many teachers who have been tortured as a result. We've seen many females who have been wounded or have been shot, even in today's city in Kabul, just because they've been doing advocacy efforts in bringing education back to females. But unfortunately, none of those efforts have resulted in anything other than death for many of those who have tried to protest against this.
Yeah.
So that is a dire situation there as well. Of course, religious freedom and appropriate way is, of course, always encouraged. But to that extent, that female presenters having to cover their face in a television broadcast, I don't know where that leads to. Well, right now it's time to go to our daily India report.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you reports, interviews, features and much more on India and the Indian diaspora. The four leaders of the Quad, the United States, Japan, India and Australia held an in-person summit in Tokyo on May 24th.
On day 2 of his Japan visit, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on 24th May morning was received by Japanese counterpart Fumio Kishida as the second in-person meeting of the Quad leaders began. PM Modi held bilateral talks with US President Joe Biden, where the Russia-Ukraine war is set to remain the focus. For new Australian PM Anthony Albanese, who was sworn in after election win, this is the first summit that he is attending with the world leaders. The summit is the fourth interaction of the Quad leaders since their first virtual meeting in March 2021, the in-person summit in the US in September 2021 and the virtual meeting in March 2022. In his opening remarks, Modi said that the Quad has gained a significant place on the world stage in a short span of time. He said Quad is moving ahead with a constructive agenda for the Indo-Pacific, which will further strengthen its image as a force for good. Modi noted that the member countries have increased mutual coordination in several areas like vaccine delivery, climate action, supply chain resilience, disaster management and economic cooperation. Quad has ensured peace, prosperity and stability in the Indo-Pacific, he added. Besides Prime Minister Narendra Modi, US President Joe Biden, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and Australia's newly elected Prime Minister Anthony Albanese also attended the meeting. US President Joe Biden said that Washington would stand with its close domestic partners to push for a free and open Indo-Pacific region. Japanese Prime Minister Kishida said that the Russian invasion of Ukraine has challenged the principles enshrined in the UN Charter. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese also pledged more support for Pacific nations, including aid to deepen our defence and maritime cooperation.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a roundtable with Japanese business leaders on 23rd May 2022 in Tokyo.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a roundtable with Japanese business leaders on 23rd May 2022 in Tokyo. Top executives and CEOs of 34 Japanese companies participated in the event. The majority of these companies have investments and operations in India. The companies represented diverse sectors including automobiles, electronics, semiconductors, steel, technology, trading and banking and finance. Key business bodies and organizations from India and Japan such as Keintandrin, Japan External Trade Organization, Japan International Cooperation Agency, Japan Bank for International Cooperation, Japan-India Business Consultative Committee and the Invest India also participated in the event. Modi met Mr. Tadashi Yanai, Chairman, President and CEO of the Fast Retailing Co. Limited, the parent company of Uniqlo, on 23rd May 2022 in Tokyo. During the meeting, they discussed the rapidly growing textile and apparel market of India and the investment opportunities under the Production-Linked Incentive Scheme for textile projects in India. They also discussed the various reforms being undertaken to enable ease of doing business for foreign investors in India, including in the areas of industrial development, infrastructure, taxation and labour. Modi also met Osamu Suzuki, Senior Advisor, Suzuki Motor Corporation on 23rd May 2022 in Tokyo. During the meeting, he recalled Mr. Suzuki's association and contribution to India and appreciated the transformational role of Suzuki Motors in the automotive industry of India. They appreciated that Suzuki Motor Gujarat Private Limited and the Maruti Suzuki India Limited were among the applicants approved under the Production-Linked Incentive Scheme in the automobiles and auto component sector. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi also met Masayoshi Son, the board director and founder of SoftBank Corporation on 23rd May 2022 in Tokyo.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed and interacted with over 700 members of the Indian diaspora in Japan on 23rd May 2022.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi met and interacted with the Indian diaspora in Japan. Before the event, Prime Minister met with Japanese idolists, sportspersons and cultural artists who are contributing to promoting culture and people-to-people exchanges between India and Japan. Prime Minister also met Pravasi Bharatiya Samman awardees in Japan. Indian diaspora in Japan is spread over 40,000. Prime Minister appreciated the Indian community members for their skills, talent and entrepreneurship and their connection with the motherland.
जापान में अपनी परंपरा, अपने मूल्य, अपनी जीवन पद्धति, उसके प्रति जो कमिटमेंट है वो बहुत गहरा है। ये विशेषता है हम लोगों की कि हम कर्म भूमि से तन मन से जुड़ जाते हैं, खप जाते हैं, लेकिन मातृभूमि के जो जड़ों से जुड़ाव है उससे कभी दूरी नहीं बनने देते हैं।
Invoking Swami Vivekananda and Rabindranath Tagore, Prime Minister underlined the deep cultural ties that exist between India and Japan. He also highlighted the various socio-economic developments and reform initiatives in India in the recent years, particularly in the domains of infrastructure, governance, green growth and the digital revolution. He invited the Indian community to join and take forward the campaign of Bharat Chalo, Bharat Se Judo.
Japan and India, they're coming very closer. As a journalist, as a senior journalist, I can say it's like never happened before kind of things are happening, not only culturally, but only business-wise, people to people.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to lead the main International Day of Yoga event at Mysuru on June 21st.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will lead the mass yoga demonstration event in Mysuru on June 21st on the International Day of Yoga. The program is being held in the physical mode after a gap of 2 years due to the coronavirus pandemic. As the country is celebrating the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, the day will be observed at 75 iconic locations across the country and will focus on branding India on a global scale, Ayush Minister Sarbananda Sonowal said. A series of mega events are being planned in the run-up to the 25-day countdown to be observed in Hyderabad city on May 27, wherein around 10,000 yoga enthusiasts will participate in the yoga demonstration. Apart from the main event at Mysuru, another attraction on June 21st this year will be the Garden Ring, a relay yoga streaming event which will capture and weave together a digital feed of International Day of Yoga programs organized by Indian missions abroad. The proposed plan is to initiate the streaming from Japan, the land of rising sun, at 6 a.m. local time, and will culminate in New Zealand, Sonowal stated. Around 70 countries are likely to participate in the relay event. Union ministers, film and sports personalities, yoga experts and enthusiasts will be among those who will attend the event.
India sends 40,000 metric tons of petrol to crisis-hit Sri Lanka.
India on May 23rd said it has delivered around 40,000 metric tons of petrol to Sri Lanka, days after supplying 40,000 metric tons of diesel under the Indian credit line to help ease the acute fuel shortage in the debt-ridden island nation, which is grappling with its worst economic crisis. India extended an additional USD 500 million credit line to Sri Lanka last month to help the neighbouring country import fuel, as it has been struggling to pay for imports after its foreign exchange reserves plummeted in recent times, causing a devaluation of its currency and spiralling inflation. Commitment delivered around 40,000 metric tons of petrol under Indian assistance reached Colombo today. The Indian High Commission in Colombo said in a tweet, India on Saturday provided another 40,000 metric tons of diesel to Sri Lanka under the credit line facility.
Where we will
the Sri
join
Lankan
in
government
the
has
for
asked
today.
its non-essential
as
staff
soon
to
as
stay
that
at home
happens,
due
we'll
to the
cross
petrol
over
and
there.
diesel shortage. Lawmakers have asked the Parliament Speaker to give them accommodation in hotels as they cannot reach Parliament from their homes in the absence of transport fuel. A severe shortage of foreign reserves has led to a long queues for fuel, cooking gas and other essentials, while power cuts and soaring food prices have heaped misery on the people. In a tragic incident, a 2-day-old baby died on Sunday due to her father's inability to find petrol to take her to the hospital from the Central Hill area of Haldumulla in the district of Badulla.
Dhanush flaunts an intense look in the trailer announcement poster of his Hollywood debut film, The Grey Man.
A new poster of Dhanush from his debut Hollywood film, The Grey Man, directed by Avengers Endgame's Anthony and Joe Russo, the movie has been shared along with the announcement of the trailer. The actor shared a new poster from the film and announced that the trailer will be launched on May 24th. However, a release time has not been announced yet. The film is directed by Avengers Endgame filmmakers Anthony and Joe Russo and has Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans in the lead. The Grey Man also stars Reggie Jean Page, Anna de Armas, Wagner Moura, Billy Bob Thornton and Alfred Woodard in pivotal roles among others. This action drama is based on a book series by Mark Greaney and will get an OTT release on streaming giant Netflix on July 22, 2022. Meanwhile, his upcoming film, Tiruchitra Balam, with director Mithran Jawahar, will hit the screens on July 1, 2022. The film is backed by Sun Pictures and has music by Anirudh Ravichander. Notably, Dhanush has joined hands with his brother and filmmaker Silva Raghavan after almost a decade.
That's all in today's bulletin.
So ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for you in that segment. Right now we will be crossing over live to the Queensland Parliament House as the proceedings for today begin, and we will bring that live coverage until about 5 to 10, and at 10 a.m. we will of course be having the weekly real estate update with Usha Chandra of GlobeNet Realty. So the bells are ringing in the chambers, and very soon as the members enter and the speaker will ask everyone to stand up, be upstanding for the beginning. As soon as that happens, we will cross over. The bells are ringing, so it should be any minute that we do. So ladies and gentlemen, it's always been wonderful having your company, and today, as you know, we had the first segment of the news, then we had the Daily India Report, and now we'll be crossing over live to the Queensland Parliament House, and then we will be finishing off today at 10 a.m. with the weekly real estate update with Usha Chandra of GlobeNet Realty. And we'd like to get your feedback on the show, and if there's anything that you'd like to discuss on the show, we'd quite like to welcome you on the show. You can come and discuss any topic that you'd like to have. Air your view, as they reckon. You can air your view on here. We can get you via a video link. We can get you via an audio link, whichever way you prefer. We can get you in and for that interview right here. Well, right now, let's cross over to the Queensland Parliament.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Honourable members, I respectfully acknowledge that we are sitting today on the land of Aboriginal people and pay my respects to elders past and present. I thank them as First Australians for their careful custodianship of the land over countless generations. We are very fortunate in this country of ours to have two of the world's oldest continuing living cultures in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples whose lands, winds and waters we all now share. Are there any matters of privilege? Honourable members, I referred to the second reading debate on the State Penalties Enforcement Modernisation Amendment Bill yesterday afternoon. During the course of the Treasurer's reply to the second reading debate, the member for Everton sought leave to move a motion without notice. The question of leave was put to the House and a division was called. The question was resolved in the negative. I seek to remind all members that the general rule of procedure is that when a question has been posed by the Speaker and read into the House is in possession of that question and it must dispose of that question in one way or another before it can proceed to any other business. Standing Order 90 provides that a question is superseded by the adjournment of the House on the motion of a member, a previous resolution of the House to pass some other business, an amendment to the question or a closure motion. Standing Order 237 provides for the adjournment of a debate, that only a member who gets the call may move the adjournment, and a member cannot simply interrupt a member. Members who are speaking can only be interrupted in limited circumstances, such as a point of order or a matter of privilege, Standing Order 248, or extend or curtail speaking times, Standing Order 247. To raise a point of order and then seek leave to move a motion without notice, as the member for Everton did yesterday, is grossly disorderly. There is no point of order, only a tactic that was out of order. It is out of order to interrupt debate on a substantive question and seek leave to move a motion without notice. In this regard, I refer to rulings by Deputy Speaker English on the 4th of December 2008 in the record of proceedings, page 4193, and Speaker Reynolds on the 11th of February 2009, the record of proceedings, page 90. Honourable members, sessional orders substitute party votes for divisions. Standing Order 105.3b provides that total number of votes cast for each party must not include any member who is not present on the precinct or will not attend the chamber that day. Yesterday, two divisions counted the member for Traeger for the Katters Australia Party. However, the record of attendance shows that Mr Katter did not attend the chamber yesterday, although he may have been on the precinct. In accordance with Standing Order 105.1i, I am reporting this error to the House and directing that the record of proceedings be altered. Honourable members, I wish to remind members of the Queensland Community Foundation information session hosted by Minister Enoch and the member for Lytton from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. today in the Undumby room. Staff are also welcome to attend. The information session will provide members information on how you can assist organisations in your electorate to create local legacies through the work of the Foundation. Attendees will also hear from the QCF Chair, the Honourable Margaret McMurdo, AC, about the work of the QCF. As Speaker, I have been proud to host the QCF Philanthropy Week event here at Parliament House for some time because of the good work of the QCF does in getting funds to the community across our state. This year's Philanthropy Week event will take place on Monday, 6 June. Honourable members, I commend today's information session to the House and Minister Enoch and the member for Lytton for supporting this function. Honourable members, pleased to be advised that Ms Lynn Armstrong, the Parliamentary Library's Director, Information Management Services, has officially lodged her retirement after 44 years of distinguished service with the Queensland Parliament. Lynn commenced employment with the Parliamentary Service on the 23rd of January 1978. I was one. Puts it into perspective, doesn't it? She started this role as Assistant Librarian. Lynn worked in a variety of roles in the Parliamentary Library. In March 1999, she was appointed as Director, Library Information Services, a role she has held for the past 23 years. Lynn has seen many changes to the Parliamentary Service, the Precinct and the Parliamentary Library during her career. When Lynn joined the Parliamentary Service, her first office was located in the O'Donovan Library, as the annex had not yet been built. Lynn was with the library when it secured the organisation's first computer in 1975 and introduced electronic library management systems in 1977. What a good year. In November 2010, Lynn was presented with a Meritorious Service Badge for her contribution to the development of Parliamentary Library's hard copy and online collections into a resource of excellence for the Parliament and its members. To put Lynn's service in perspective, during a 44-plus year career, there have been 4 Clerks of the Parliament, 4 Parliamentary Librarians, 5 Sergeants-at-Arms, 10 Chief Hansard Reporters, 15 Speakers from Speaker Horton, 9 Premiers from Bjelke Petersen, and 17 different opposition leaders. I thought that would get a rise out of someone. I'm absolutely sure that I speak on behalf of the House in terms of all honourable members in joining me to wish Lynn the very best in retirement. She is in the public gallery today. Never to be outdone by an announcement. I have one further announcement I'd like to make. Honourable members, it is important that we maintain our traditions. However, members' traditions should not stand in the way of great reforms when their time has come. So we've seen great reforms come through the chamber. We've seen the abolition of the appointed upper house, the abolition of death duties, and the end of the gerrymander. Today I announce the next great reform. I'm pleased to note that from tomorrow, members will be able to bring tea or coffee into the Legislative Assembly chamber. So for workplace health and safety reasons and heritage considerations, only keep cups with secured lids are able to be used. If you don't have a keep cup, well, you can buy them here at the Parliament. Own source revenue, thank you. These can be purchased at a reasonable cost from all outlets at the precinct. Members, I trust you enjoy this brave new reform. And I wish to advise members that we will be visited in the gallery this morning by students and teachers from St Thomas More Primary School, Sunshine Beach in the electorate of Noosa, Concordia Lutheran College in the electorate of Toowoomba South, and Callum Vale Community College in the electorate of Alcester. Are there any appointments to be announced? Are there any ministerial papers? Are there any ministerial notices of motion? Are there any ministerial statements? I call the Honourable the Premier.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And can I also echo your words for Lynn and wish her all the best for her retirement. And it was lovely to see her in the gallery this morning. And I think she looks too young to retire. So obviously the years here have not been too hard on her. And secondly, Mr Speaker, congratulations on your reform for tea and coffee into the House. I think it would be greatly appreciated by both sides. Mr Speaker, in 2016, Cole Miller and a friend were walking from a nightclub in Fortitude Valley. It was 3:29 a.m. on Sunday, January the 3rd. Cole and his mate were headed to a cab rank and then home. A stranger who had been celebrating his 21st and drinking heavily picked the pair for a fight. Neither Cole nor his friend responded and did everything they could to simply walk away. Cole was punched in the head from behind without warning. Mr Speaker, it was the very definition of a coward's punch. Cole fell to the ground. He never regained consciousness. Cole Miller was just 18. Mr Speaker, Cole's loss was felt deeply across our whole community. We feel it's still so senseless and so pointless. More than 2,000 people gathered in King George Square demanding something be done so that no other families suffer such an awful loss. Mr Speaker, that something was our government's strategy to tackle alcohol-fuelled violence. In July of that same year, we began passing new laws with greater controls on alcohol sales, especially in the early hours of the morning. Mr Speaker, I table the government's response into the final evaluation of the Tackling Alcohol-Fuelled Violence policy. It has found a 49% drop in the number of serious assaults between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. on Friday and Saturday nights across Queensland. There has been a 52% drop in Brisbane's Fortitude Valley. Ambulance call-outs are down. The report finds that there has been no adverse effect on business and no evidence the violence has shifted to venues outside its safe night areas. Mr Speaker, we will never stop trying to do better. As a result of this review, today I announced $500,000 in grants for safe night precinct boards to fund roving security services and taxi marshals to better improve safety in and around licensed venues. We will work to make the list of banned patrons available to all venues that operate after midnight. Mr Speaker, I acknowledge the courage, strength and leadership of Cole's family, especially his sister Kate and brother Billy, who join us in the gallery today. And I recommit to them this government's determination to spread the message that one punch can kill. I also pay tribute to the work done by our former Attorney-General and our current Health Minister and a certain Brisbane surgeon. He was so sickened by the endless procession of people in his operating theatre who were victims of alcohol-fuelled violence that he stood for Parliament to change these laws. And he did. Dr Anthony Lynham is operating right now and couldn't join us this morning, but his achievements in curbing these horrible crimes is achieving what he set out to do. And, Mr Speaker, I do want to comment on the fact that he came into this Parliament with a purpose. We all got behind him with that purpose. We passed the laws, and the laws are working, Mr Speaker, and that is an incredible credit to him. And I also draw on the point that I can remember my very first meeting with him down at Key West, where he talked to me about this and how serious an issue it was. And I reflected that at the time we were in opposition, that our small team supported him because we thought it was the right thing to do. And it was at that moment, Mr Speaker, that he said that he was thinking about joining our team, and he got elected on a by-election, and he has left this place a better place, Mr Speaker. Came in with the purpose and he did it. It has made our community safer, and Mr Speaker, we must continue that work, and we must never forget Cole Miller. Mr Speaker, Queensland's electric vehicle superhighway is on the move. We've already built 31 charging stations from Coolangatta to Port Douglas and Brisbane to Toowoomba. And today I can announce that new charging stations will be installed across Western Queensland as part of our next phase to extend the Queensland Electric Superhighway. See, Mr Speaker, governing for everybody. We're building 24 new fast charging stations in Western Queensland as part of our commitment to reduce emissions, improve connectivity for electric vehicle road users, as well as create more tourism and economic development.
Member for Southern Downs.
Mr Speaker, we had allocated $2.75 million to build 18 sites at Charters Towers, Hewenden, Julia Creek, Cloncurry, Mount Isa, Goondiwindi, Stanthorpe, Winton, Longreach, Buckhorn, Blackhall, Emerald, Dingo, Charleville, Roma, Miles, Kingaroy and Esk. And today I'm pleased to announce an additional $1 million to deliver 6 more at Richmond, Cynuna, Injune, Rolleston, St George, Cunnamulla. This adds 1,586 kilometres to the network, bringing the total superhighway to 5,386 kilometres in length, and extends it from Mount Isa in the northwest to Goondiwindi in the south. Mr Speaker, in March we announced a $55 million package including thousands of dollars in incentives to supercharge clean energy transport in this state. This includes making electric vehicles more affordable for Queenslanders, providing a $3,000 subsidy for anyone buying an electric vehicle to the value of $58,000. And as more people go electric, we're making sure the infrastructure is there to support it no matter where you live in Queensland. Mr Speaker, our government has had a long and strong history of supporting renewable energy investment in this state. We have a 50% renewable energy target by 2030. To date, 50 large-scale wind and solar farms have been committed with more than $10 billion of investment and 7,900 jobs. And today I can announce yet another wind farm project to power Queensland towards our target. Publicly owned CS Energy has just signed an agreement with global renewable energy leader EDF Renewables. This partnership will progress the development of Central Queensland's Banana Range Wind Farm. It will sit in the heart of a Central Queensland renewable energy zone with outstanding wind resources and proximity to existing high-voltage transmission lines. The 230-megawatt project will generate enough cleaner, cheaper energy to power 15,000 homes. And most importantly, too, Mr Speaker, it will create jobs, 150 new construction jobs. The Banana Range Wind Farm adds to the pipeline of renewable energy generation projects diversifying Queensland's publicly owned energy companies, which are helping to drive the energy transformation in our state. We expect construction to kick off in 2024 before coming online in 2026. Mr Speaker, our government is committed to our renewable energy target to act on climate change and to power green energy investment, creating local jobs for Queenslanders. And, Mr Speaker, a lot of these projects are in regional Queensland, Mr Speaker. I want to emphasise that because it's jobs for regional Queensland, Mr Speaker. And finally, Mr Speaker, one of the first things I did when I became Premier was tour drought-stricken areas of Western Queensland. I sat down with graziers and landholders in Charleville, Barcaldine and Ilfracombe, outside Longreach, and they told me about their issues with wild dogs and the damaging impact on their flocks. The situation has become so bad that the number of sheep in Queensland fell from over 8.5 million in 2001 to 1.8 million in 2016, a decline of over 80%. In the same 15-year period, Queensland agricultural jobs fell by 28%. I don't know why they're interjecting. This is good news. Yeah, it is good news. You know.
Members to my left. Member for Nanango sees her interjections. Premier, you have the call.
That's why I fast-tracked our election commitment of $5 million on wild dog control and made it the government's mission to do everything we could to bring back the sheep industry in Western Queensland, Mr Speaker.
Great success. Great success.
That's right. Once again, the Palaszczuk Labor government delivering for the bush.
Order!
That's right.
He's the member for Gregory.
That's right.
He's polite.
Looking forward to seeing what Peter Dutton will do out in the bush, Mr Speaker.
He doesn't know where it is.
Mr Speaker.
Doesn't know where it is.
Order. Members to my left.
You are pathetic.
Okay.
That's exactly
Order, Premier.
What's wrong with the LNP.
Premier. Premier.
What is wrong with the
Premier.
LNP? Exactly.
Premier, I asked you to withdraw that statement.
I withdraw.
Without asking the member if he took offence. Member for Kawana, it would help if you weren't interjecting. Premier, you have the call.
Since 2015, we've committed more than $26 million. Over 9,000 kilometres of fencing has been approved. And 400 sheep-producing properties have been protected from wild dogs. Mr Speaker, we've protected sheep, the livelihood of farmers, we've brought jobs to the regions, and we've bolstered economic activity in these communities. We know that of the cluster fencing projects completed, lambing rates and sheep numbers have increased dramatically. For example, lambing rates have gone from 40% to up to 80%, and sheep numbers have almost doubled in the area, with numbers increasing from 270,000 to nearly 500,000 head. Cluster fencing has reduced wild dogs, and sheep and wool prices remain high, and demand for their meat is increasing. Because we brought the sheep industry back, and because of our strategy to grow the industry, we want businesses to keep pace with the
Member for Nanango will cease her interjections.
So today I can announce, Mr Speaker, that our $4 million Rural Agricultural Development Grants program is now open. This means Queensland sheep and goat producers now have access to up to $200,000 per business to help enterprises, businesses along the supply chain and businesses that use sheep and goat-derived materials in their products or activities.
Yeah.
These grants can help businesses by This is good news for Queensland, Mr. Speaker. This is great news for Queensland, and all we're getting is frivolous interjection from those opposite. These grants can help businesses by developing new products, implementing new technologies and or upgrading equipment or training. Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to our regional industries that support regional communities, and our cluster fencing program is one of the great success stories right here in Queensland. It's now time to tap into these benefits, which will also help these local economies even more. Once again, the Palaszczuk Labor government delivering for the bush.
I wasn't going to interrupt. Order! I wasn't going to interrupt the Premier because that's what the interjections were designed to do, but Memphis and Ango, you all want understanding orders. I call the Deputy Premier.
Mr. Speaker, this summer has seen multiple catastrophic floods for Queenslanders in the south of the state. Many communities are dealing with the compounding impacts from 2 or 3 of these events. We have moved swiftly to ensure financial support is getting where it is needed most: people, families, small businesses, not-for-profits and primary producers. Personal hardship assistance for those individuals and families doing it tough, and a $558 million grants package for flood-affected small business, primary producers, not-for-profit organisations, sporting clubs and councils. In addition, we have funded the $741 million Resilient Homes Fund program and a $30 million clean-up program. And still, there is more to be done. Recovery from major events needs to take in a wide range of factors, and this package will help fund and address elements that had not yet been covered in the $558.5 million grants package and the $771 million Resilient Homes Fund and clean-up package. The next phase is a $721 million package that will be available across 37 local government areas hit by the 3 major floods in 21-22 to help them recover and build back better. The package will be jointly funded by the Australian and Queensland governments under the Disaster Recovery Funding Arrangements and brings the total of extraordinary assistance announced this disaster season to more than $2 billion. This latest package includes a $150 million betterment package, a $150 million community and recreational assets package, $177.7 million for human and social initiatives, $177 million for economic recovery, and $56.9 million for environmental recovery and management. It will provide a great deal of flexibility for impacted communities for services, grants and programs to help them on their recovery journey. It will see more people on the ground supporting families, farmers and businesses to get back on their feet. It will kickstart the long road to recovery for councils and communities. We are committed to ensure our communities recover from these catastrophic events, and we're committed to building safer, stronger and more resilient communities.
I call the Treasurer and Minister for Trade and Investment.
Speaker, with the brighter horizon brought about by the election of a federal Albanese Labor government, Queensland's economic recovery continues to flourish. Australian Bureau of Statistics Wage Price Index data for the March quarter 2022 shows Queensland has, at 2.5%, the strongest annual growth of any mainland state. Speaker, after years of stagnation under the former LNP Abbott Turnbull Morrison government, that is the strongest figure for almost 8 years. Speaker, it is the strongest figure since the last quarter of 2014. And for those members opposite, it's the Palaszczuk Labor government bringing it home for Queensland. Speaker, that rise in wages is consistent with the remarkable nation-leading jobs growth Queensland has demonstrated over the last 2 years. Our government has helped create 145,500 additional Queensland jobs since the start of the pandemic. Speaker, that means Queensland has created almost as many jobs as New South Wales and Victoria combined over the same period. Speaker, all this means businesses in Queensland have the confidence to invest and hire more people. That growing demand for labour is the catalyst for the strongest annual wage growth in more than 7 years. And across the rest of the country, Australians are seeing what is happening in Queensland and they want to be part of it. The latest population data shows Queensland's net interstate migration rose by more than 40,000 in the last year to September quarter 2021, the largest increase in the state since 1994. To put this into perspective, the next highest net interstate migration over that period was 6,000 to Western Australia. Quite simply, no other state has navigated this once-in-a-lifetime health and economic crisis as well as Queensland. Speaker, our government devised and implemented the right health response to COVID-19. The growth in jobs and wages we are now seeing is a direct result of that. Now, with a federal Labor government in Canberra who will sit down and listen to us rather than wedge and fight, Queensland's prospects are looking stronger and brighter than ever.
I call the Attorney-General and Minister for Justice, Minister for Women and Minister for the Prevention of Domestic and Family Violence.
Speaker, the Palaszczuk government is committed to keeping Queenslanders safe. Queenslanders should be able to go out for a night with friends without the fear of being assaulted or feeling threatened. We know that it only takes a single senseless punch to claim a life. And with late-night venues once again packed after the pandemic, we need to be reminded of this more than ever. I would like to especially acknowledge Kate and Billy Miller for taking the time to be here today. Their brother Cole's tragic death in 2016 on a night out in Fortitude Valley should never have happened. The Miller family have endured a nightmare, and no family should have to live through this. And when Cole was killed, please know that the entire state grieved with you. That's why I'm pleased that the Premier today has tabled our government's response to the independent evaluation of tackling alcohol-fuelled violence policy. This is all about finding the right balance between
a very
making
wonderful move, but right now we'll have to say goodbye from this segment because at 10 a.m. we have the
Our
weekly
response
real estate
outlines a
update
commitment
with
to
Usa
implement
Chandra. It's
further
been wonderful
safety
having your
measures,
company.
such as a comprehensive independent review of alcohol and drug education in our schools, an alcohol awareness campaign,